All right, and we are live. All right, well, welcome everyone. This is Valiantys's AI-powered productivity, a beginner's guide to Rovo in the cloud free webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. Just wanted to start off with a couple of introductions here. I'll start with myself and then I'll allow Joshua to introduce himself as well. My name is Sam Ayres. I'm an engagement director here at Valiantys and an Atlassian certified professional. I've been in the ecosystem for several years now, been with Valiantys just past 4 years, I believe is what it's been now. And so happy to be with you guys here today. And I'll pass it over to Joshua to introduce himself.
Joshua Demetri. I am a principal solutions architect at Valiantys. My background is all in software development, so I came from enterprise software development, and I am now kind of helping our efforts in cloud transformation and cloud platform transformation, and kind of what does it look like to take our processes, take our systems, and including things like AI and like Rovo, and integrate them into a more holistic cloud platform.
Awesome. Thanks, Joshua. You'll be hearing from Joshua a little bit more later on. And just before I go any further, I want to get through these slides. I just want to give you guys some context just about Valiantys, kind of who we are, and give you a sense of kind of what we do. And so just a couple of quick 1-2 punches here. We've worked directly with and partnered with Atlassian for I think over 17 years at this point. So long-standing, great relationship with Atlassian. We are, which has resulted in a Partner of the Year award 13 times over at this point. We're Atlassian's first global partner, truly spanning the globe at this point in the APAC, Westpac, EMEA, North American regions. And then additionally, we are a Platinum Solutions partner with Atlassian, which in a sense just means that we have a deep understanding of Atlassian's products, as well as a lot of experience implementing and customizing the Atlassian suite for our clients. This also means that we provide a series of services. And in this case, in the realm of consulting, our consulting services specialize in the full suite of Atlassian tools, catering to organizations of all shapes and sizes. And we are truly 100% dedicated to the Atlassian ecosystem. In the realm of training, it's another one of kind of our core offerings. We provide extensive training programs as well as free content like the webinar you are participating in now. And then we also offer Jira boot camps for Jira Software, Jira Service Management, Confluence, and Jira Line, which are designed more for that Jira admin role. So a wide range of training content. It's something we pride ourselves on. And then we also have Atlassian user academies in the realm of training. These are tailored more for everyday users. And so to put it plainly, in the realm of training, we have a whole gamut of training offerings for a wide spectrum of users and user personas. We can help you out with licensing Atlassian products. We have a very strong development team that allows you to, or really is a vehicle for custom solutions, and that means we're helping you develop applications, we're crafting unique interfaces, user interfaces, and the short version is with our dev team tied or almost inextricably linked to the Atlassian ecosystem, we can develop solutions that may not even exist yet. So a lot to offer here and how we can help you. And please feel free at any point after this webinar to reach out to Joshua and myself if you have any other questions about the services that we provide. We'd love to talk to you more about that. We're going to have our email addresses shared with you in just a few. Okay, so with that, enough about us. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this webinar. So this is what we're planning on covering today. And I want to preface this webinar with a statement that previously the features that we are going to show you today were kind of broken out into Atlassian Intelligence and then Rovo. So Atlassian Intelligence kind of being more of those day-to-day functions where we are using Confluence and using AI to summarize our content, or we're using Atlassian Intelligence to query issues, juxtaposed using JQL. Kind of those day-to-day AI functions. As of Teams 25 this year, we learned from Atlassian that pretty much all AI functionality is rolling under a product or really just an offering called Rovo. And so we used to make a juxtaposition between kind of the Atlassian Intelligence day-to-day features for everyday users and Rovo. And now ultimately everything falls under one umbrella. And so if you've looked at or been with us for this webinar previously, just know that essentially we are referring to the AI features that we're going to show you today as Rovo now going forward in accordance with Atlassian's announcements or announcement at Team 25 Europe. And so in the agenda, we're going to talk about what is Rovo. We're going to just discuss very quickly some pricing information just to be cognizant of. We're going to demo some of the features. We're going to talk about some current features and maybe a few that are coming soon. And then Joshua is going to talk about on a very high level Rovo in the realm of custom solutions and some of the art of the possible avenues there with Rovo. And then we're going to talk about some upcoming webinars and events, and then have some time hopefully for Q&A at the end. And to that end on Q&A, just a quick reminder, if you have any questions, please hit the Q&A button down at the bottom of the Zoom session. Drop your questions in, and we'll tackle them at the end of the session. We typically like to leave anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes at the end to talk through some of those. So with that, let's dig into a little bit of how Rovo works, kind of what it is, and we'll start to unpack this kind of maybe more on an elementary level within this webinar. So in short, Rovo helps teams accelerate work, increase efficiency, and provide value faster using artificial intelligence. So for example, some of the more basic Rovo features that we're going to show you guys today: you can generate and transform content, you can summarize critical details, you can find the work that you need fast, and much, much more. Rovo is not just limited to what we've all societally come to learn what AI can do in more of a chat GPT sense. We've got Rovo agents, which Joshua will probably talk about on a high level a little bit later on, but we also have a more focused webinar that we'll plug shortly as well that'll dig into Rovo agents. But just don't want to give the notion or convey the notion that Rovo is a one-trick pony. There's a lot that it can do within the ecosystem. So you may be asking yourself, how does this work? Rovo combines advanced language models developed by OpenAI with Atlassian's own AI technologies, including the teamwork graph. An understanding of and the teamwork graph really is an understanding of your team's unique projects and workflows. And so by leveraging the data and context within the Atlassian platform, it delivers a personalized native AI experience while respecting the privacy of your data. To that end, that's a segue into something that I like to talk about on a high level, and these are questions that we get a lot. So as AI tools are becoming more ubiquitous in organizations nowadays, we want to address the question, how is the data I put in the tool being handled? So the first thing I like to mention to you guys, and then ultimately any client that I work with that is on the Atlassian ecosystem on the cloud, is that Rovo AI features are opt-in only at the org admin level. So in other words, you need to be an org admin, which is the topmost permissions level within the Atlassian suite of tools, to intentionally switch on Rovo on a tool by tool basis. And I'll show you guys how to do that a little bit later on once we get into the tools demonstration. But that's to say that you can police how Rovo is used on a product by product basis, switch it on or off. For example, you can have it turned on for JSM, you can have it turned off for Jira Software, and vice versa. to the point that inputs aren't stored. So none of the inputs or outputs from AI are stored or used by Atlassian or their partners to train their models. So inputs and outputs in this case, obviously, or maybe not obviously, refer to the data that users are putting into Atlassian products and then are in turn analyzed by Rovo. Rovo respects permissions and data residency. So for example, Rovo is going to respect whether you have access to the Jira work items you're searching for example. All data is also processed and transmitted in accordance with Atlassian's privacy policy, data processing addendum, and then also GDPR commitment. To date, Rovo is not HIPAA compliant. However, Rovo has completed the external assessment and compliance certification for SOC 2 and ISO. So something to take into consideration as well when you're thinking about using these AI features within your Atlassian suite. And then lastly, it leverages OpenAI. So Rovo uses large language models from OpenAI, and then each data request is sent to OpenAI individually over an SSL encrypted service to process and send back to Atlassian. Okay, moving along here. So in the realm of pricing and packaging options, it is very important to note that Rovo is currently a cloud-only feature set, AI feature set. So something to consider. Um, Really cool, Atlassian announced at Teams, I believe it was last year, that it is available starting on the standard licensing tier. So if you're a standard license tier within the Atlassian suite, you have access to Rovo and all the wealth of features therein. Usage limits are now in place. The short version is if you abuse it, you lose it, is the way I like to put it. If there has been a disproportional use of Rovo by a user, they're going to receive an error message saying that they've exceeded their usage limit and to try again later. On the more extreme side, if a misuse of AI has been detected, Rovo will be deactivated for your whole site and AI features will no longer be available. So an admin will have to contact Atlassian support at that point to have Rovo activated again for your users. So in summary, it's just important to stay inside the confines of Atlassian's acceptable use policy, and then you won't run into problems. Okay, so enough about pricing. Let's go ahead and jump into some of the more, I would say, basic or just kind of pedestrian day-to-day user features of Rovo. Um, and really at this point, we are going to show you guys a couple different things. I want to demonstrate these features in a fictional marketing business project. This is a fictional marketing team that's working on a marketing campaign to launch Rovo, and then also to an adjoining Confluence space with the same purpose. But before I jump into demoing some of the features within this project and then also the adjoining Confluence space, let's show you how to actually flip on the AI features within your Atlassian stack here. So if I go to the settings cog up here, and I can go to user management, really I'm just using this as a vehicle to get out to the admin settings. At this point, I am an org admin. I wouldn't be able to access this menu if I was not an org admin. But if I go to apps and then I go to AI settings under platform experiences, and then this is where I can click on AI enabled apps. And you can see this is where I have it flipped on for Jira and for Confluence. And so this is going to allow me to use the AI features that I'm about to demo for you guys. And then I can select additional apps here. So you can see Compass is another app that I have within my test site here that I could select and flip on AI features for that app as well. But just again, reiterating something that I shared earlier, you have the ability to remove or add Rovo AI features on a product by product basis. Okay, so let's go back to the project that I'm going to demo in here. So what I want to show you, and in the spirit of showing you some of the more basic features of Rovo, Rovo allows you to generate and transform content. So this is where you can create content based on a prompt. You can rephrase content. You can restructure content. And to that end, let's look at an example of all three of those. So I'm going to jump into one of my issues here. This is where I have a task for somebody on my marketing team. It's currently unassigned. And this is where I have a campaign for social media postings. And my description is upgrade to billing system now requires us to launch a new marketing campaign. So let's use Rovo to flesh out this issue description a little bit more. So I'm going to click on the description, and you can see now that we have this very fresh, new looking Rovo button. It's our writing assistant. I can highlight the text, and I'm going to click the Rovo button here. And this is where I can either type in a variable command or I can use some of the pre-packaged action commands here. But in this case, let's give it a more variable command. I can say add some ideas for how to approach leveraging social media for a marketing campaign as a bulleted list. Let's give it another parameter here and then enter and see what happens. Perfect. So now I have a lot more detail in my description. I can choose to insert below or replace the text, or I can refine it as well, change the tone, etc. So a lot of options here, but I'm going to say insert below and then save. And so this is where I've got a much more operable task here based on all the bulleted list and additional detail that I've added using the power of Rovo in a matter of seconds. So I could rephrase it if I wanted to. I could also go down to the comment section here. Here's a comment that I've added, and it's a little bit desperate, maybe a little bit rude sounding. I can go to my writing assistant, click show more, and then change the tone to be more empathetic. Hello, I truly hope someone is reading my comments. Your attention to this would mean a lot to me. So we'll go ahead and insert that one below just to have a juxtaposition there. And then how about restructuring content? So there's a few ways we can handle this. If I go back to my comment here, let's get our add some ideas for how to approach leveraging social media for a marketing campaign as a bulleted list. And then I'm going to replace it, save. And then let's say I want to restructure this. You could do it this way by just selecting numbered lists. That would probably make a lot more sense to do that. But just to demonstrate, we've got a few other options here. Let's say make this a numbered list. And then we can replace it. And even just to further break this out, we can say organize this list alphabetically by the first character in each line. And then replace. So again, just highlighting, if you live in the Rovo prompt, the idea is you want to adopt these features. There's a lot that you can do in a matter of seconds of reorganizing and ultimately refreshing the data here. Also, interestingly enough, a new feature, and every time we run this webinar, there are just new things that pop up month to month with AI capabilities. You do have this improve button up here at the top right as well. And this is where you can very quickly ask Atlassian Intelligence to do a couple different things. You can link to Confluence content. You can summarize the comments. You just got a couple of quick action items here. And so if I could click improve description, now we're talking. I've got even a much more detailed description here, and I can click replace. And so just building on what we had already already created. There's just a bunch of different options to refine this in a really elegant way. So I click save. And now at the end of the day, I have a much more operable task for my team, probably less questions as a result back and forth to whomever created the task and who's actually carrying out the task. I've given my team member exactly what they need to carry this out, all in a matter of seconds, refining this with the power of AI via Rovo and the Atlassian suite. One tool, or I should say feature of Rovo that I really enjoy. Prior to my current role, I was a Jira admin and ultimately a consultant that was very much close to building solutions within Jira for my clients and was more involved in the technical side of things. And there's this really, really cool feature set now with Rovo and the ability of creating automation rules with prompt. So let me go to our space settings. It's also something just to be aware of. Atlassian just recently switched away from the project nomenclature, and now basically between Confluence and Jira, we are working in spaces. So something just to be aware of there, which is why you're seeing space. If you've been in the ecosystem a while, it's probably making your brain twist a little bit and tricking you into thinking that this is Confluence, but we're still in Jira. So now with automation, we have a much more robust menu here. We can jump right into the rules, the audit log, templates. And under the template section, this is where I can create rules based on a prompt. So let's say maybe a rule that a project manager would like to use, or quite frankly, anybody, a scrum master, a project admin. Let's say when all subtasks are completed, add a comment to the parent letting the assignee know. Let's see what it does here. Hit enter. Rovo is working. And let's take a look at the rule logic here to see how it was handled. So when a work item is transitioned to done for parent within the AI marketing content project, that's so far so good. If subtasks equal done, then add a comment to the work item. All subtasks have been completed. Please review the parent issue. Very good. Did exactly what we would like it to do. At this point, this is where I can turn on the rule. I can validate the rule. Your rule is ready to turn on. Pretty neat. And at that point, I can turn on my rule, and it's an active rule now. Let's give it something a little bit harder. Let's go back to return to rules. And what's really neat too is you don't have to go to this template section here, although you can also just click create with Rovo right up the top. So again, just Atlassian trying to afford you every option to adopt AI within the ecosystem. Really nice accessibility options here. So when a work item of marketing asset is created and social media is in the summary, add the social media label and create a subtask under the same work item with target influencers in the issue summary. That's a lot to throw at it. Let's see what it does. Okay, so let's go through the rule logic to check its work here. When a work item is created, perfect. Issue type equals marketing asset, check. Summary contains social media, check. Edit the label, nice. Created a non-existing label called social media, which it's going to create that now, which is great. And then create 0 subtasks. So this is a perfect example of AI saving us a ton of time. So it wasn't able to put in the target influencers within my issue summary for my subtask, but how hard is it for me to just type that in real quick, click next, my rule is ready to go. Or I could add additional subtasks here if I wanted to, and then ultimately I can click save or validate my rule beforehand and then save it. And so just further showing you guys that AI can get us 90, 95% there. It's saving us a bunch of time. It's not always going to do everything that we need it to do on the first try, but again, it's optimizing our workflow. It's saving us a bunch of time of not having to click through the UI and ultimately create our rule in a very manual way. Something that a feature that seems very simple, but is ultimately something that saves a ton of time. And when I'm working with clients or honestly using Jira myself, how often are we having to go back and search for issues given a specific criteria? So Rovo allows you to do that very quickly, very easily. So within the new UI over here on the left pane, I'm going to click search work items. And this is where I can click my Ask AI button. So instead of leveraging either the basic drop-down search function or JQL and having to know JQL, I can use an AI prompt and say, search for all issues assigned to me, and that also have the word webinar in the summary. In a matter of seconds, I have exactly what I was looking for. What's really cool too, as well, is this gives you the JQL query that you would need to leverage in order to conduct the exact same search. This is super helpful too, going back to our automation example. You saw in one of my automation rules, or maybe you caught it, that it was filtering by parent and if whether or not the subtasks were complete via JQL query. Super helpful to use AI to ultimately render what the JQL query would need to be. So I view this as a feature that you can use to enhance other things that you're doing in the tool rather easily. And maybe you're not a very strong JQL user. This is also a really great sidebar learning tool. Something that was really elusive to me when I started off in the Atlassian ecosystem was any kind of JQL query that was date-based. So something that I really enjoy with this feature is I can just say all issues assigned to me and were created in the last month. Hit enter. And then again, I have all of these issues. Again, exactly what I'm looking for. They were all created within the last month. And I don't need to remember the really, at least again to me, tricky operators of greater than, less than, start of month, -1. I don't have to remember all those. I can just use the AI prompt and ultimately find the issues that I need much faster, much more elegantly. Okay, so let's take a look now. I'm going to pivot over to Confluence. And let's take a look at some of the same features, or at least similar features within Confluence. And similar to what I showed you in Jira, I'd like to show you how we can prompt, rephrase, and restructure content within Confluence. So as I mentioned earlier, we're still in the realm of our fictional marketing team. And this is our adjoining Confluence space where our team is working. We have our a page tree. You know, if you're familiar with Confluence, this is probably going to look familiar to you from a UI perspective. And just for a moment, I know I just mentioned that this is a marketing space. Let's go ahead and just pretend for a second that this is a Scrum Masters Confluence space that they are sharing with other Scrum Masters. And we need to create a page for how we're going to conduct Scrum ceremonies. So I'm going to click create here. So we're going to generate some content on the fly. I'm going to click page. And also too, you saw me create here within the page tree. You can also create a page up here at the top as well. So a couple different options to create content if you're new to the UI and ultimately Atlassian products. And from here, this is where I can just honestly type /, and then I can click Ask Rovo. And this is where I have a prompt very similar to what we saw in Jira. And let's say create an outline for Scrum ceremonies. And a little bit of a typo there. We're going to help AI out, although it would probably be just fine with that spelling error. And I can click or actually hit enter on my keyboard. And then in a matter of seconds, I have a 6-step outline here that I could use as a skeleton for what I want to talk to my other Scrum Masters about. Or I can take it and run with it right into a meeting, ready to go. So I'm going to click insert, and we can give my page title. And then click publish. And again, in a matter of seconds, I have a page that I can take and run with. Going back to our marketing example, let's say we want to provide steps to develop a grassroots marketing campaign. So I'm going to click create. I'm going to go to page. Very similarly, I'm going to type / ask Rovo and provide steps to develop a grassroots marketing campaign. And just in a matter of seconds, I have something that I can take and run with, or I can use as a baseline. We know with AI tools, maybe it's not going to be 100% correct in the first try, but at least gets the creative juices flowing, gives us a starting point to run with. And so we could say steps for a grassroots marketing campaign, and then we can publish our page. And then ultimately, too, when we publish, you can provide what access you would like here. There we go. In the realm of rephrasing content, so I like to show this page because there's kind of a gloom statement here within the problem space. The company has been losing customers over the past 3 years, particularly in the 18 to 35 age bracket, kind of doom and gloom. Let's click edit, highlight the text. We can ask Rovo, and we could change the tone to be a little bit more casual, maybe. Over the last 3 years, we've been losing customers, especially those aged 18 to 35. They don't have a mobile app. A little bit more direct, a little bit more casual. We can refine it. We can click refine, change it to more empathetic. We understand how important it is for younger bankers to manage their money on the go. So very quickly, we can change our tone to a myriad of different things. As I showed you guys before as well, we can type in the prompt as well and provide Rovo with what we want it to do next. So lots of options here. As far as restructuring content, a lot of my life is spent in meetings, just like anybody else in the IT world. And we are always looking at our processing nodes to a certain degree. Now, obviously, with the advent of AI, we have AI bots that can capture notes for us, which is an amazing thing, maybe inarguably the best thing that AI can do for any of us. But something that I really like within Confluence, or a feature of Rovo that I really enjoy, is I have, let's just say, some chicken scratch notes like you see here. And very quickly, I need to pull out what I need to take and run with from these notes. I can highlight all of these, click Ask Rovo, and then click Show More. So I don't want you to move past this Show More button because there's a lot more that we can do here. But there's this awesome Find Action Items button here. So I can click Find Action Items, insert them below. And then even though my notes are objectively horrible here, I can start at mentioning folks within these notes so they know ultimately what they need to go and do. As we know within Confluence, there's also the opportunity to highlight text and create Jira issues, or Jira work items rather, off of that text. And we've got it all linked back here to Confluence. But ultimately, the point is I can take shoddy notes, and as I showed you before, and we won't do that right now just for the sake of time, but I could restructure these, clean these up, and then ultimately pull meaningful action items out of them. Really neat. We'll click update and save those. And then again, We could mention folks, create Jira issues off of these. Something too, just to be aware of as well, if I go back to my Scrum ceremonies page, I don't want to gloss over the ability to summarize the content that you're working with. So if I edit this page, select all of it, I can ask Rovo to summarize the writing. So maybe I've got a page that's just really busy and maybe hard to just disseminate the information down to other people or synthesize the information myself. This is where I can, via AI, very quickly summarize the page, kind of give me that TLDR version of what I'm looking at. You could also use this as potentially an introduction to whatever page you're creating. Similarly, we can also, if I click update, we can also summarize published pages. So something to be aware of within Confluence, you have this ever ready Rovo button here down at the bottom right. So on my release readiness page, fair amount going on in this page, I could go to Rovo and then have Rovo summarize the page. Again, maybe I'm an executive who just doesn't have a ton of time. I need the Cliff Notes version of a Confluence page that maybe a dev has written in very, very fine detail. This is where I can use Rovo to give me the TLDR version of the page. All right. So for the sake of time, and I want to give Joshua some airtime as well, let's go back to our presentation and just talk about very high level some of the features that are present and maybe just one in the case of Confluence that's coming soon. And so within Jira, we have the ability to search for work, just like I showed you guys with everyday language. We can translate content, we can improve and change the tone. We can reference Jira tasks and prompts. We can define words, summarize comments. We showed you guys that today. Creating automation rules using natural language. It's something we did today as well. And then also too, you can fix Jira query language with maybe you're running into syntax issues or typos. Something that we didn't demo today, but is super cool. You can convert text from a Slack conversation into a Jira work item. And then really the list goes on. And ultimately, month to month, I see this list changing. Literally, every time we run this webinar, it is changing by the minute. Very often, either I'm seeing the introduction of new features, or I'm seeing features that were previously in beta now fully fledged and out in the ecosystem to be consumed by you guys. So very, very cool stuff in the Jira realm. In the Confluence realm, brainstorming on ideas on a whiteboard, very, very neat. As you may or may not know, whiteboards is a diagramming solution within Confluence. So a lot of AI functionality getting built and thrown into whiteboards right now. We showed you guys how to summarize pages, summarize inline and page comments as an option. And the list goes on. And you can also create automation rules using natural language within Confluence, which is really cool. And then coming soon, being able to generate suggestions for improved readability is coming down the pipeline. I also really want to highlight at this point is that today we just demoed some basic features within Jira and Confluence. There's a wealth of AI capability via Rovo in not only Jira and Confluence, but within JSM, Jira Product Discovery, Trello, Bitbucket, Atlassian Analytics, and quite frankly, I think the list will just be going on at this point. So just to let you know, hold on to your hats, keep an eye on the features within these tools and the other tools that I just mentioned if they are used within your organization. All right. So with that, I want to pass it over to Joshua, who's going to dig into some of the more advanced features and capabilities of Rovo on a high level. And as I mentioned earlier, kind of giving you maybe some of that art of the possible context for Rovo within the Atlassian ecosystem. So Joshua, over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. So I want to start by talking about JSM on Jira Service Management, just for the sake of making you aware of this feature. It's kind of another AI feature that has historically been under a name that is not Rovo. And I can't remember if they've quite moved this into the Rovo naming yet, but I imagine it eventually will end up at least somewhat falling in that category. So virtual agents are a tool that we have accessible in Jira Service Management. This is kind of on top of having all the tools that Sam already walked through that we have in Jira, because we can use the same ones in Jira Service Management. But virtual agents allow us to create kind of externally facing AI chatbots, essentially. So if you're looking to find ways to kind of help that first level of support where the request initially comes in, and have some ways to map the conversation, and take that to easily provide references for that support request. Virtual agents are the first place to go. These are some screenshots from the Atlassian documentation around it. Go and explore that a bit further if you kind of want to get into that world. Just wanted to call it out here, even if we don't go super in depth with it, just so you know that virtual agents do exist and they are kind of out there. There's a lot more to talk about in terms of internal facing agents. So like having a chat bot that you can talk with inside of your own organization. That's where Rovo agents will come in here in a second. But Jira Service Management has this concept of an externally facing chatbot that is just valuable to be aware of. So we go ahead and go to the next screen here. Um, Sam, if you want to scroll down a bit. I really just have a text there saying beyond work management, to say that what we can do with Rovo, and if we scroll down to these diagrams, it goes a little bit beyond what we just think of as kind of general work management tasks. And I'm calling this out because I want to walk through what it looks like for an organization to integrate Atlassian AI versus integrate their own kind of custom rolled version of AI tooling, right? So every organization out there has an initiative top down saying we need to have AI across the board, and has to kind of do all these things, right? And so we look at the landscape, and we think about security, we think about data processing and the cost of that data processing. We think about having features that are integrated directly with our tools that we already have. And a lot of organizations, especially larger ones, have ended up with what we see in this kind of the old way diagram, where we have our tools like Jira, Confluence, and Jira Align, and other Atlassian products. And then on the right side of that diagram, you'll see in the green box, we have things like custom applications or external sources like other SaaS products. So you have like Workday along with your Atlassian tools, and maybe you have SharePoint has a lot of your information along with Confluence. Then in the middle, in this gray box, I put everything you'd actually have to build in order to create an AI tool that can do the types of things that Atlassian Intelligence or Rovo, and I'm still kind of, the name in my head is still not fully switched to Rovo, but that Rovo is accomplishing here, right? It's like searching and getting insights off of, and really understanding the data that you have. In order to build all of that, we're building custom data stores. We're building applications with screens on them for asking questions and building prompts, and getting value out of the AI there. And then we have to actually do the processing of the AI itself, right? We have a large language model we're going to have living somewhere. We're going to use OpenAI maybe. We've got kind of all the different things that we have to do in order to build what we see in the old way diagram. And even after doing all of this, we still end up with a scenario where we have all of this AI tooling, but it's not directly integrated with our tools and our Atlassian products or our external tooling. I can't just go to a Jira issue in that scenario and ask for it to update my wording, right? That's not a thing you can do if you build your own solution that doesn't actually integrate directly with the tool. So on the right side, we see what it looks like with Rovo, where I have all of my tools just directly connected to Rovo, or in the box it still says Atlassian Intelligence, but it's Rovo there, where Rovo is directly accessible, like Sam was showing in those demos, to be able to just get AI value directly integrated with my data. And now I've also removed the necessity of having to build all of that processing layer myself. So what essentially could have been three separate teams of developers hired to work with some data scientists to like build our own AI tooling can go away. We can just use Rovo, and we get this connectivity where I can just go into Jira or Confluence or Jira Line, Compass, any other of those tools, and Rovo is just there, ready to go and accessible. And then even rolls into things like Atlassian Analytics and that type of thing as well. So I just wanted to call that out. And you'll notice there's only one difference between these two diagrams that is not a positive one. And that one difference is that in the right side, there's no connection point for the external data. So we know that every organization has more than just Atlassian tools. You have Atlassian tools, you have, like I said, things like SharePoint or Slack or any Microsoft products or Google products or maybe Google Drive. You have a lot of places where your data might live that are not necessarily your Atlassian tools. You have other SaaS products that you might use to manage things like time tracking, maybe if you don't use Atlassian to do that, and you want to be able to integrate with those things. So can we still integrate with those things and still have Rovo? And the answer to that is yes. So if we scroll down a little bit further and kind of look at the next diagram, if you want to zoom in a little bit, I think it's a little bit small as well. This is where we come to using Rovo with Forge. So if you have not ever seen or heard Forge before, Forge is the development platform that exists for Atlassian. So whenever you're seeing, apps on the marketplace, you're seeing people build custom tools and custom plugins for their Atlassian tools. Those things are being built in Forge, at least more and more these days. There are other ways to build tools, but Forge is the one that comes from Atlassian. That is kind of like the way that they want for us to build customizations on the Atlassian platform. And Forge and Rovo are kind of directly integrated with each other. We can utilize Forge to bring data into our Atlassian products. So like, for example, let's say you have a scenario where you have a lot of data being stored in SharePoint, and you want to have that data accessible to your Atlassian suite of products. Well, there are tools in Forge where you can go create a connector for SharePoint, or let's say some tool that doesn't have an existing connector. You can build an integration to that tool, and when you bring that data into the Atlassian environment, well, now all of a sudden I'm able to use Rovo to search and restructure and format and ask questions about all of that data. So bringing that data into the Atlassian environment gives us the AI tooling right out of the box because Rovo is sitting there ready to go. And it gives us just really a valuable way to integrate with external tools. Or let's say you want to have the ability to query something, like you want to go ask Rovo a question and tell it, hey, can you go and update this in Workday? Well, you can create an integration with Forge to go update that in Workday and have Rovo be able to handle that. Those are the types of things that we'll get a little bit more in depth with in some of our other offerings. So there are other webinars that we've given or that we will be giving that get a little bit deeper into Rovo and a little bit deeper into Rovo and Forge and Rovo and yeah, especially with some agents, things we'll talk about here in a second. So if you want to find those bits of information, reach back out to us and kind of ask us to go through some of that process with you. We like to meet with customers and talk through what can we accomplish with Rovo and with Forge and all these tools. But I just wanted to walk you through kind of that from a high level. Let's go ahead and scroll a little bit further. We've got a bit of an example of where we've done this. So we created this application for an automotive customer that wanted to manage a fleet of vehicles. So they have a fleet of vehicles that people are making reservations for, and they're checking out those vehicles, and then they're actually going and testing them and basically figuring out if there are any problems with the vehicles and reporting those back. Well, we actually ended up building them a full-scale application. So what you see on the screenshot to the left is a fully running application that is, outside of Atlassian. It's just a application that you can interface with and that you can, reserve a vehicle. You can see what vehicles are reserved. You can kind of search through all the information of that vehicle. You can see all the information you need about this whole fleet, essentially. Well, as you can see in that screenshot, it is actually showing up as part of the Atlassian product and it's part of Jira in this case. That's because it was built using Forge. So we used Forge, the development platform for Atlassian, to build this tool. And because we did that, we were able to create a system where all of the data for that tool is actually JSM requests. It's assets being stored in the Atlassian platform. And now our database can be handled by Jira admins. So, like a Jira admin can go in and see the database for this application. But it also means that we can now use Rovo and AI to search and summarize or even automate the interactions of things that are happening in the application. So without having to build our own database and our own AI tooling, kind of all of our own things to accomplish this, we now have a system where we can use AI to search the reservations of our fleet management reservation tool, just because of the fact that we built it using Forge, using Atlassian products, and the data is now accessible to Atlassian. All right, so if we go a little bit further here, what we're going to see is kind of one last thing to look at, which is going to be, what about agents? So we have Rovo. We've talked a little bit about Rovo, where we can use it in Jira and in Confluence, kind of inline and kind of with the different places that we can access. What do we do when we go further than that? What if I want to actually have automations run by Atlassian AI tooling? What if I want to go beyond just asking it a question and basically be able to say, go do this thing on my behalf and have Rovo go do that for me? Well, that's where Rovo Agents comes in. And Rovo Agents will be a topic that we really do get a lot more in depth in kind of some upcoming webinars that we have, and we can send a link to that. But uh, keep an eye out and also go maybe find some of our recordings that we've done in the past if you just kind of want to get some information quickly. But Rovo Agents are a way for us to take all of the data, all of the knowledge that Rovo has. So all of the data that we brought into the Atlassian environment, along with all of the information it can gather from tools we build in Forge, and be able to create automations, chatbots, and kind of any sort of tool you can imagine, really utilizing all of these things together. So basically able to create, our own AI tools, utilizing all of the knowledge and all of the systems that Atlassian has built into Rovo. So I just wanted to call that out as a thing that is going to be valuable for you to look into, and we will have more content coming out around that and have some on our YouTube channel already, so you can go and find that as well. If you look for our Rovo webinars previous to this one, a lot of them focus very heavily on agents. All right, so we can keep scrolling here, and I believe that takes us to this kind of last thing to look at, which is that Rovo agents. And as you kind of go through and look at some of that content around Rovo agents, a lot of it's about automation. So the goal here is to take things that were manual and slow process before, same thing as, restructuring content. It's a manual and slow process. But we can use Rovo to restructure our content, and we can use Rovo agents to take actions on behalf of the user. And what that ends up with is some kind of low touch automated actions where we can automatically do things for the user that they would otherwise have to spend a lot of time doing. So it's really about saving time, saving effort, being able to provide those kind of quality of life tools for the people working on projects. All right, and I believe that takes us to our last slide, which is just upcoming webinars and classes and kind of things like that. So, go check our YouTube channel, go check our website, and you can find kind of training offerings that we have, along with webinars and events and recordings of previous webinars. There also is a QR code there for our LinkedIn profiles if you didn't see that in the chat earlier.
Yeah, I'm pleased to that end. Reach out to us. We'd love to network with you guys on LinkedIn. And so it'd be great to connect. And as Joshua mentioned, here are our email addresses. Feel free to reach out to us with any questions that you guys have. Maybe you're going through an AI transformation within your organization. Love to talk to you guys some more about that topic. So with that, we've got about 7 minutes for questions. So we'd like to open the floor for any questions that you guys might have. Okay. Oh, nice. Okay, so somebody asked, I had attended the session with Josh on August 26th. I've not been able to find the recording, but it was the best Rovo session, or it was the best Rovo session I've been to yet. Can you help me find that? Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for your compliments. Joshua is a rock star. But yeah, anything to add there, Joshua?
Yeah, so that one, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a Rovo readiness workshop. And our workshops that are a little bit more hands-on and therefore a bit more interactive are ones that we don't necessarily post to our YouTube channel in the same way, because they are, they're just more interactive and people might be talking that aren't us. And so we don't really post those. But I believe we do have a recording of it. So send either myself or Sam an email and let me know. I will see if I can find that internally and send it to you, because since you were an attendee of it, I should be able to send you the recording. There is also another session that would be similar to that one coming up that I'm going to have one of my colleagues give, and that will be great as well. So keep an eye out for our upcoming webinars and training and events. But if you send me an email looking for that recording and kind of give me the date again in that email, just so I can go check on that. But I should be able to get you a recording of that since you were an attendee there, and I'll double check on that and get back to you.
Thanks, Joshua. Any other questions? Still have a few minutes left here. Okay, here's another question. Does Rovo adhere to data residency? So yes, if you turn on data residency within your instance or your Atlassian Cloud org, all of your in-scope product data is going to remain stored in that region you have selected. Okay. Any other questions? All right, folks. Well, happy to wrap a few minutes early, give you some time back to hopefully get a cup of coffee and power through the rest of your afternoon. On behalf of myself and Joshua, we thank you so much for your attention and for your questions. This recording will also be available on YouTube, and so we'll post that probably at some point this week. So again, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.